if you really love it, like it can burn you out. I've seen so many people like they just get burnt. Like they love the physical act of skateboarding, hate everything else about skateboarding. And that's kind of where I've been for like a while now that I've worked in it. Like I hate the skate industry. It's like high school, man. Straight up.
Yeah.
It's all the politics and the cliques, and you can't skate for this brand if you're associated with this brand type shit because this brand isn't cool enough or we're cool. I mean, at the end of the day, man, we're all dorks. Like no one's cooler than the next person. They think they're cool or someone thinks they're cool. But then when you get to meet everybody, you're like, man, this dude just a normal person, or this person sucks, or this person is as cool as I thought this person was going to be.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Codec Projects podcast. In this episode, we're talking to skate industry veteran Vern Laird. I've known Vern for a long time. We hit a lot of things in here. We talk about some old school hardcore, the skate industry, obviously, shooting with the VX1000, 411 Video Magazine, his old band Point of View, skateboarding in the Olympics. Lots of cool stuff in here. I think you'll enjoy it.
My name's Vern Laird. I am currently the team manager, marketing manager, brand manager for Bones Bearings, which falls under, it's one of the brands at Skate One distribution.
So this might sound like a stupid question to you, but as an outsider, not knowing a ton about the skate industry in 2020, is Bones Bearings in Skate One, is that all basically Powell Peralta?
Yeah, so Skate One is the actual like incorporated name, Skate One Corporation. And the first brand Skate One made was Powell Peralta. Well, it was actually Powell before Stacy Peralta was even involved. George Powell was making skateboards. He was an engineer, and he got into skateboarding. I think at the time, like one of his kids was into skateboarding, and that was it. And so Powell was the first brand, and then he started doing Bones wheels because he created his own urethane for the wheel, because at that time I think wheels were made out of clay and they were just falling apart. And you have to go back to the history of wheels with like, I don't know, they were like steel and they were just rolling, but like there was nothing like performance based, like, and people started doing tricks, like if you go back to the history of like all the Dogtown stuff where Stacy Peralta ultimately becomes involved with George Powell and the brand becomes Powell Peralta. They partner up. But all those guys start doing tricks and pulls and stuff like that, and they just needed better stuff. And George is like a brilliant, genius guy, and he's creating, his own stuff. He's got his own wood shop and own manufacturing place in Santa Barbara and making boards and wheels like all through like the 70s. They started, he started making boards in 1976.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's why, I mean, whenever I say Bones, like most skaters will know or associate it with Powell Peralta because that's like the first known brand out of Skate One. If you say Skate One, only like people who own shops or like work in the industry know what the hell Skate One is, or if you're like a super skate nerd.
Right. But
you're not going to know what Skate One is. And unless you're getting a package from us, because it says Skate One, it's not going to say Powell, Peralta, or Bones. It's technically coming from Skate One.
Okay, that makes sense. And then Bones is basically the bearing.
So this is where it gets confusing because we do Bones wheels and Bones bearings. And
some
George
decks also, right? Some decks also.
No, we don't do Bones decks.
Okay.
The decks are just Powell Peralta. We also do Mini Logo, which is like a price point brand. And I think that's it. We were doing other board companies. Like there was Hoopla, which was like an all girls skateboard company that Mimi Noop was doing. Then there was like Golden Dragon that, it was Steve Caballero's brand under Skate One, and Positive Skateboards, which was Andy McDonald's company under Skate One.
Okay.
So, and we were doing these longboards for a while, but pretty much now it's the only decks we make are just Pal Peralta and Mini Logo. We just got rid of all that other stuff. I mean, it was selling, but like, to justify doing that stuff, I think George wanted to see bigger numbers out of those other brands. So he's like, no, let's just focus on these two because they sell the best.
Right.
So it just consolidated. But when so Bones Wheels started first before he started doing bearings. Like I said, just because the wheels were made out of clay, so he started doing a urethane wheel, and he still has his own urethane that we make to this day. Since COVID happened, we were in this big building. Like you've probably seen it back in the day. There was a skate park. There was like the PAL Fun Zone. So they were in that building for like ever. And, with COVID regulations and like having like 100 employees in one building, we actually had to disperse people from each other and separate them and social distance just to be able to keep everything up and running. So now we run out of like 3 buildings, and one of them is in Ventura, and that's where we actually manufacture the boards and wheels. And we manufacture. That's why we had like 100 employees in one building. We physically make stuff. And that's something that we can say that no other brand does.
Right.
So yeah. And George doesn't want to make wheels for other brands because people come at us all the time like, hey man, can you do our wheels? Because there's like companies that make wheels for, basically all the skate brands. Like I could think of one urethane company in the United States that literally makes the wheels for like several other brands.
Yeah.
It's like they just like put their logo and their marketing. It's like, boom, we got a wheel company, but you're physically not making your own urethane. You're sharing the same urethane as several other brands. So what's going to separate you and make you better or different?
Isn't that kind of the same with the wood too, with decks? Because I know back in the day, like you were basically buying from 3 different places, like, and one you knew you'd break on the first day, and then there'd be one group of companies that I think like New Deal and Black Label for me always held up better than
because that's Paul Schmidt. That's like PS Stick. So and Paul is like the mad scientist genius on like the wood into things as far as board making goes. Like I still think Paul's like the best at that stuff.
And like blind, I couldn't skate blind, or I couldn't skate anything that came from Rocco's. Yeah,
because that was prime wood shop. I mean, those boards were great for like the first couple days. They had that really good pop, but then they just went from pop to poof after like a couple of days, and like it's like, damn man, like, but those first couple days you're like, damn, this is like the best board, and then it just got soggy after.
It's funny because I was kind of I was kind of like always a little heavier. I go in where the shop where Roger Bagley worked, and it was called something else in Danvers, Mass, and he worked there forever. And I'd always ask him like, okay, so what board? And he'd always like steer me in the right direction, and he'd put my grip tape on for me. And
yeah, Roger's like a skate nerd. He's the reason I have like a board with rails on it to this day, because he
smart guy.
He made those curbs in Santa Monica, the OG Nodis curbs, like really fun and skatable. Like, he lacquered them and like waxed them, clear coated, the whole kit. Like these curbs are amazing. Yeah. And I showed up one day to skate it, and I'm trying to do all like the curb dancing, and I couldn't do it. And Roger's like, you got rails. He's like, try my board. And it's like you move your feet a little bit and you're getting into like board slide, hurricane, feeble. You're doing all the combos. I was like, oh man, this is like a difference. He's like, yeah, man, you got to have your setup just for curbs.
Because you have you get the leverage on it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So Roger's still very nerdy about his setups, and, he's got several setups, like just depending on what he's skating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, usually the guys that work in the skate shops are the skate nerds that know like everything. That's why he's perfect for, his 9 Club and what he does, like he knows a lot of the history of skateboarding.
Yeah, he knew. He always knew. He'd always hook me up. It's funny because he's probably only a year or two older than me, but I always felt like he was way older than me.
Yeah, because he's just knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So he comes off as being really old, but he's not that old.
No, I know he's not. But
yeah, yeah. So going back to the bone stuff, like, yeah, we definitely get approached by other existing wheel companies for them to make, for us to make their wheels, and it's just like George doesn't want to do that. He's like, why would I help someone's like sales? Like, it's not my brand. Like, we're focused on us and our wheels not flat spotting and making the best urethane possible. Like, that's George's whole deal. Like, there's a lot of brands out there that are concerned with like being cool. George is concerned with making quality.
Right.
Like, that's it. He just wants quality products. He wants the best. And it's like, that's what's going to separate us from everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, you definitely don't want flat spots on your wheels. That's the worst. But
yeah.
Speaking of rails and flat spots, how did you get into skateboarding to begin with?
Well, I was riding BMX.
There you go.
So this was like 1986. I got my first BMX bike, GT Pro Performer. That thing weighed more than me.
Yeah. I can relate to that. By the way, yeah, I want also, like, I wanted to mention did you realize you're exactly 8 days younger than me?
I didn't know that.
Because I was born on the May 11th, 1974.
Yeah, May 1974. That's crazy. Yeah.
Because I watch, because you always come up, you always have your or you did, I don't know if you did one this year. You usually do like a birthday video.
I did
do one this year?
Video. Yeah, I did one. I do one every year, man. Ever since I turned 40. I think I took 1 year off when I got the knee surgery because I couldn't get any footage. So there was one year I didn't get a part.
Well, that makes sense, though.
Yeah, but every other year I've done a part.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to drop that in.
Yeah. Well, and one part came out later because it was when I had like the honorary pro board on Surprise Skateboards, and the board wasn't going to be ready on my birthday, so we had to wait until I think the trade show, like in August, for that one to drop. So, but I still did a part for that year. It just didn't come out on my birthday.
That's awesome. I always say I'm going to try to do something like that, but I can't. Yeah. I can't pull it together.
Well, they've been like, last year's was easier because all the footage I just get throughout the year, it's like, oh, I'm just going to save this for my part. Because like I used to like film it like with serious like HD cameras and stuff, like, oh, someone's got a Panasonic, someone's got this, anything.
Right.
And then but if I know I'm shooting HD, I'm keeping it all HD. And then one year I did a whole VX part because I was sitting on all this VX footage that didn't get used for my friends that do these sabotage videos in Philly. They still shoot with the VX 1000.
Right.
So they had some stuff of me that they didn't use for the part. And he's like, hey, man, I already got a folder of like a lot of your clips. I'm like, all right, perfect. That's my start for my birthday part for this year. It's all going to be VX, though. So I had to make sure I brought my own VX everywhere I went. Just in case someone did, because nowadays no one really has those things. Like I can count probably all the filmers that still have a working VX 1000. So it's like, okay. No,
I was gonna say, I will finish where you can go ahead and finish, but I want to ask you about the VX for a minute.
Yeah. So that's that part was the only VX part that I ever did. All the other parts are HD, but now the parts recently are just iPhone footage or GoPro, because the quality now of like the iPhone 11 is insane. I don't have the 12 yet, so I imagine it's insane. GoPro, like now that they're up to like 8 or 9 or whatever, like they just keep getting better and better. So it's like, okay. And the footage matches up perfectly. Like when I edit them together, it's like, oh, it's like the same now, same quality. So now like the more recent parts are just iPhone GoPro combo.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm the VX 1000 thing confuses me a bit. I understand the aspect ratio with like the depth lens is a is a big deal, but I don't for the life of me understand why people are still so hyped on that camera.
I think it's an East Coast thing. It's definitely no one on the West Coast. Like, there's like, okay, so I take that back because these dudes are working on a Van Nuys courthouse video. And it's like all these dudes live in the Valley, and they're the only ones I know in LA that still run the VX crazy. And I had 2 broken VXs. So when actually I just had 1 broken VX initially. And so I was like, and someone hit me up to like film with a VX. I'm like, I got one, but it's broken. So I took it to my Sony spot in Burbank, North Hollywood. I think they were originally in Burbank and then they moved to North Hollywood. But so I go over there, and I was like a customer for years, ever since I moved to LA in like 2002. And I ran the VX all the way up to like the Listen video, which came out 2007. So like for 5 straight years, these people were fixing my VX, every little like issue. Yeah. So I was like their best customer. So I bring this VX in. Dude hasn't seen me in years. He's like, I'm just going to look at your camera for free. And so he hits me back. He's like, man, all the things wrong with this one, it's going to be about $600 to fix. He's like, if you really want one, you can find one on eBay, probably in mint condition for like $600.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, combed around eBay. I'm like, sick, found one for $600. I'm like, this broken one will just be a nice paperweight display thing. Like it got a lot of years because I got that one in like 98.
Jesus. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, sick. Bought this new one, worked for like a year, then it just shit the bed out of nowhere. So I'm like, well, now I got 2 broken VXs, whatever, I'm done with this camera. So there's this filmer, his name's Kmart, Kevin Martinez, one of the younger skaters that I sponsor in LA. He's like, oh man, the homie fixes VXs, like that's his whole thing because he only films with that, and he's just got tons of parts because he combs eBay buying broken ones, just collecting the parts. And so I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll have him look at one. And he fixes it for like $25. I was like, dude, come on, really? He's like, no, I already had the parts, I'm just charging for my labor. He's like, I banged this out in like an hour, $25 just for an hour's worth of work. I was like, really? So I sent him the fattest box, boards, wheels, bearings, the whole kit. He's like, dude, what? Like, I sent him hundreds of dollars worth of like products. I felt bad. I'm like, this dude just fixed my camera for nothing.
Right.
And I was like, hey man, do you mind fixing my other one? Same thing. He fixes the other one for like $25. I was like, dude, no way. So I sent him another fat box. He's like, dude, I'm gonna have so much product for the rest of my life. I'm like, dude, I'm going to send you business because I have friends that film with the VX. So if they need it fixed, I'm going to send them your way. You could charge them more if you want. Like, it's up to you. So
what do you?
So then, go ahead.
Well, what do you think it is about the VX? Because obviously, I mean, it was a great fucking camera at the time, but
the sound, man, the sound sounds so good. I don't know what it is with the microphone on the VX, but me personally, I love the audio of it.
Yeah.
And that was like my first like legit real camera that I started shooting skateboarding with. Like I had like a VX3 for a little bit and like, some Sony Handycam High 8 stuff. I had the old VHS shoulder type cam. I've had them all, but like something about how it was built, it was like almost whoever made that at Sony was like thinking like, this is perfect for skateboarding because of the handle on it. And then when Century made that fisheye, like that was such a game changer, it's just like, because then you could get in really close and the colors looked good, especially like now that I'm here and it's like fall and there's like, like orange leaves and stuff, like those oranges like pop, like when you're filming, especially like at sunset, like that golden hour, you get like that golden look. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it did have good color.
So many of the skate videos that were like influential to me, like were all shot with that camera. So it's just like, man, like this is what I know, this is what I like. And, it's nostalgia. And for some reason, like dude, I didn't use that camera for like years, but like I could set it like right away, like nothing. It's like the settings were so ingrained like in my head, like how to set it, how to hold it. Like I feel like I film better with that camera than any other camera.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it didn't even have a flip out screen, did it? I
No,
don't think
no
it did,
flip
right?
out screen.
It just had the
Nope, just the viewfinder. And so you know what we do now? We film through the viewfinder on our phones to watch the clip.
Right.
So, because I just shot something with it when I was in Miami like a couple weeks ago. Like, but you know now like I don't think they're making the tapes for them anymore. So the tapes are like really expensive and hard to come by. And you know Century doesn't make that fisheye. So now when you find the fisheye somewhere on eBay, like people are charging crazy money for it. And I only have one. And it's like, man, if someone hits this thing or scratches it, like I'm fucked.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to retire anyway, because the one dude that I'm shooting some stuff with, like he's working on a documentary and it's all VX. And he's like, we'll be done this thing by like April. You can retire that thing because by that time I'll really only know like maybe 5 people in the entire world that still want to shoot with like the VX. So it's like, all right, these last 10 tapes I have might be it.
I think I've got a couple boxes of mini DV tapes here if you want them.
I'll take them, man, for real, because those things are hard to come by. Like I bought some like maybe a year ago, like when I was in New York at B&H.
Yeah.
And like that people are like, nah, man, they're like, it's like finding gold now. Wow. When you find those things.
Yeah. I stopped. I had a DVX. I haven't used them since I had my DVX, which was quite a while ago.
Yeah. But getting back to how I got into everything.
Yes.
So it was like 1986. Yeah, I'll get sidetracked.
Yeah, no, and that's
hours,
fine.
Trust me.
That's the interesting stuff anyway.
Yeah. I feel bad for you because you're going to have to edit this out because there's going to be a lot of shit people probably don't want to hear, or it's going to be the longest podcast you'll ever post. But so it's 1986. You know, everyone's riding BMX then. So, you know, it was just a normal thing. But, you know, I wanted like a trick bike. I didn't want like a Huffy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, nah, I need the trick bike so I could do all the cool tricks. And, you know, my parents got me the GT Pro Performer with the mag wheels and everything. And like I had like the fork stands and the frame stands. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to be killing it with all these tricks. And I remember when Rad came out in the movie theater, I saw Rad. Like I was like, dude, this is sick. I'm going to learn all these tricks. And like couldn't do anything because it's like the bike's heavy. And I'm like 12. I probably don't even weigh 100 pounds yet. I don't even know. Like I'm scrawny. Like I've always been skinny.
Yeah.
And like, it was hard to like pop a wheelie. It was hard to bunny hop up a curb. Like I'm just like, dude, biking is hard. And
you needed a race bike is what you needed, like a racing bike.
See, I didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about.
I was in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, like I had Rad to go off of. Like that's all I knew about BMX. I had friends and Rad, and that was pretty much it. And like. I didn't even know racing was a thing until I watched the movie. It's like, oh, they're racing. But I'm like, I didn't care about racing. I cared about doing the tricks because I'm like, the tricks look cool.
Right.
I just want to do tricks. Like, I wanted to do everything in the opening montage. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I thought that looked like the coolest shit. So, do you know this BMXer here from Philly, Roosevelt Taylor? Do you know that dude?
I don't.
I figured all you guys know each other because it's such a small world. And he's been doing it for like ever. And he's like my age. And he just does flatland. That's all he does.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I don't know a lot of
But he did have like a shitty vert ramp in his yard, but it was like finding wood at construction sites and like there was no real good cut transitions, and the wood didn't like line up perfectly, but it didn't really matter if you're on a bike. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, your tires can go over this. But on a skateboard, it's like, nah, everything's got to be perfect because one little like sheet of wood like offline and there's like a crack. It's like, boom, we're done. But so in the next year, sometime it was like the summer of '87. I seen this kid like doing bonelesses and bomb drops, like jumping off a car, jump back on his board. And I was like, damn, that looks cool. And I had never seen a skateboard up until then, like ever in my life. And I just thought what he was doing was like, looked more fun than what I was doing. It looked easier. So I was like, oh man, I gotta like talk to this kid and get aboard. This dude, Mike Ritzius. He's like, oh man, you know, like I'll like help you out if, you know, whatever. I'll tell you what to get, what to do. And that was it. He took me to a skate shop, Spike Skates in Philly. And that was it. He's like, you got to get a Mark Gonzalez board because he's the best skater. And I was like, okay, like I don't know shit about shit. So it's like, this is like July 1987.
Okay.
And so this kid tells me, you know, all this stuff. Mark Gonzalez, the best dude. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get everything Mark Gonzalez, get everything Vision, because that's all I know now. I know who one skateboarder is. And we had this record store on the next block. So Spike Skates was right off of South Street, which was like the main street in Philly. And but it was on this street past Yonk. And like between Bainbridge and South, it was like just a smaller street. And not a lot of cars went up and down that little portion of the street. So this skate shop would bring out ramps and stuff. And this dude, Roger Brown, who was like the sponsored dude back then, I was like, this guy's like pro. He's like the best dude I've ever seen. And like, you know, and Spike Skates had like all the good skaters. And like, I'm figuring out, I'm like, oh, this is where everyone meets up to go skating. Like, I still don't know shit about shit. Because
Right.
I'm like 13 at the time, you know, like I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just following whatever these dudes are doing until I meet like, you know, older dudes that, you know, I get more involved with skating. But going back to that skate shop, like a block away, right on like 5th Street between South and Bainbridge, there was Philadelphia Record Exchange. So this kid's telling me, he's like, these are all the bands you got to buy. You got to buy all this music because this is what skaters listen to. I was like, all right. So he's like, I'm buying like a Dead Kennedys record, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, Minor Threat, Misfits. Like, I don't know. I've never heard like punk or hardcore, but I'm like, if this is like what I got to do to be a skater, like, all right, I'll buy this stuff. And I was just, because up until that time, I was listening to like rap music and like Michael Jackson and like Stevie Wonder or something, you know, like
Right,
I had no musical knowledge in my life, like because rap music was still fairly new. And before BMX, I was like heavily into breakdancing because the movie Beach Street came out. So it's like, sick, dude, go to breakdance and graffiti. Yeah. So, and you know, my older cousin was into that. And so it's like, oh, whatever this dude's doing, it must be cool. So like, yeah, like I watched Beach Street and Breakin' and I was like, oh, this is cool. And that was it, because all that stuff was still like fairly new, or at least new to me. Cause I was like, you know, I was like 11 or something when like Beach Street and Breakin' came out. So
yeah, all that stuff was early 80s. I mean, I remember we're the same age, so I remember putting on like, I remember listening to Michael Jackson records and trying to break dance. Like, you know, imagine.
Yeah. Like that was it. Like you know, and like then when I heard all this like punk hardcore stuff, I was like, damn man, this shit's like insane. Like, but I was like hooked because I never heard anything like that. I never even listened to like rock music or, you know, like I just knew like pop and like rap. So to go from that to like, you know, Nazi punks fuck off. I'm like, oh shit, like this is insane. But I was like hooked. And it's crazy because all those first records are still like they're still very like relevant to like this day, which is like crazy to think about. Like it's still important in my life. Like, I feel like the dead Kennedys like had a message that's still important to like this day.
Oh, definitely. Unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's like when like, there's like these lists of like your favorite like punk or hardcore bands, like Dead Kennedys is always on like my top 5 because It's like, dude, man, like that shit was so crucial.
So that like, the punk, hardcore, and skateboarding for you pretty much came at the same time, it sounds like.
It all came at the same time. So I start skating in like 87. Literally a month later, there's like a Bones Brigade demo. Like Jesse Martinez killed the demo. I still have photos from that one because that was like Rodney Mullen was there. I didn't really care about freestyle, but he killed it. Like it was like the whole Bones Brigade was there. But for me, Jesse Martinez like stood out because he was going high off the jump ramp. And this is still like jump ramp era, like 87. So I remember like grabbing some wood out of my grandfather's basement to like start making a jump ramp. And like I made the shittiest jump ramp, but like I was like trying to like fly in the air like Jesse Martinez. Like that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And and he did all these street plants. So I'm like out there trying to learn all that stuff. And that was like early skating. But yeah, to me, and then like there was like a circle jerk show. There was this place, Club Pizzazz, in like Northeast Philly. Like I didn't know shit, but I was like, I did get this circle jerks record. So that dude Mike Ritzius like brings me to this show, and it's like the first, like I'm like watching people stage dive and like slam dance, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like I was like, but I was so intrigued. I was like, this shit is cool. I'd never seen anything like that. And then it all happened like that summer 87. It was just like boom, boom, boom. It was like everything happened for me. Like, and it's like not much has changed in my life since then.
That's awesome. So
it was like all that stuff had such an impact on me. I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
I got to be a part of this shit.
It's funny how that happens. Yeah.
I still love Circle Jerks, man. It's like one of my favorite bands because it's the first band I ever saw live. So it's like, oh man, love Keith Morris.
And then, so how did you fast forward a bit? You started to, obviously you were skating more and getting around, but also you were going to shows and you must have met people and somehow, I know you were in a band called Point of View. Do you want to tell that?
Yeah. So skateboarding was, I mean, like, fuck, I know about it now, but at the time I didn't know. Like people would skate for like a year, then they would quit. So it's like, you're always constantly trying to find new people to skate with. So like, I remember like, like from freshman year, there's like some dudes I'm skating with, and like, the next year, sophomore year, it was like different dudes. Like it wasn't until I discovered or really figured out that everyone in Philly or even the surrounding area, tri-state area, like they all met up at Love Park. Like that was the spot. So that's where it's like, okay, these are going to be my dudes to skate with, because dudes in my neighborhood might quit skating like tomorrow because it's progressing. Skateboarding is progressing really fast. So if you can't keep up with the tricks, you kind of just get over it. Or you get like a driver's license and you get into something else. I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, that I was going to say, what I found in my school, the kids that I was skating with, a lot of them, the ones that quit, were actually really good. But they just wanted to move on to play football or something. And it was because they were just natural athletes. So they were just good at whatever they tried. And that used to really frustrate me because I was terrible.
So the funny thing is, one of the dudes who I met sometime around I was in like high school was a dude who ended up being in a band with me. That dude, Pat Mahoney, he played guitar for Point of View. Okay. But he was a really good skater. And so I would like link up with him sometimes to skate. And the dude who was like the first singer for the band Point of View, like he was super, like all these dudes were a little bit older than me. They were like a year or two older than me. So like they were better than me. So like everybody that I always encountered was older than me. and better, which helped progress my skateboarding, because you don't want to skate with someone that's worse than you, because you're not going to get better. Like, because you want to keep up or do whatever the older guys or the better guys are doing. But yeah, so right. I think the first time I went to Love Park was like Christmas 1988, like Christmas Day, we're skating. But I didn't know it was a spot. I thought it was just something you skated while you're just skating around downtown. It's like, oh, you skate here for a little bit and then you're going to go hit this other spot. It wasn't until like 89, 90, when everybody, even including Pat, like all these dudes had quit skating. So it's just like, fuck, man. Like, at least if I go to Love Park, someone's always skating. So it's like, those dudes became like my skate friends, and not necessarily all those dudes listen to hardcore and punk. So that's when I started realizing, oh, there's like almost two different worlds. Like some of the dudes did, but a lot of the dudes didn't. So it was just like, all right, whatever. And then I still had like my punk hardcore friends. Some of the dudes I skated with, we still went to shows, or I'd find other dudes that would skate and go to shows. So like I always had different crews growing up. Like there wasn't like a set clique for me.
Okay. I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah. I always felt like, all right, I mean, I'm skating regardless. And like going to shows became difficult if like they weren't at certain places that I could like just take the train to. Cause like, you know, like I remember, fuck man, this is like Gorilla Biscuits tour summer 89. We piled in, must've been 8 people in a car to like sit in a car for like almost 2 hours to get to Reading, hour and a half, however long it was. Just to go see Gorilla Biscuits. Cause like when that Start Today record came out, I was like, this is the best band I ever heard in my life. So I'm like, oh wait, they're playing this club Unisound. I think there's a ramp. I heard there's a ramp there. Like, you know, I'm like 15. I'm like, I got to get there somehow. Like these dudes I barely knew, which ultimately they're the dudes from Matter of Fact, and which became Policy of 3. Okay. Like I hopped in a car with those dudes, and that's where I met like Serge Trutnowski, like Chad Kramer, Brian Sieber. I met all these dudes who went on to be pro skaters. They were just killing that ramp. I was like, this is so sick. I could skate a mini ramp and watch Gorilla Biscuits. This is the best place in the world. Like, but it was such a mission to try and get rides to shows at Unisound, because it was so far, especially if you don't have a car. And it's just like, fuck, this sucks. Like, and Unisound had like the best shows, I thought back then. You know, when Shelter started, they'd always have like the free Krishna food. So I'd be about that, and I don't know. It was cool. Unisound had a good little scene out there, and dealing with white power. That was the one place white power skinheads didn't show up, because I felt like at Club Pizzazz in Philly, or even at Revival, there's always like white power skinheads showing up at shows back then. And that was super intimidating for me, because I'm like a black kid that's skinny. I'm like, these dudes are going to fuck with me. Yeah. And it just, that part of the scene sucked. And it's like, why are they even at this show? This band's not even like a white power band. Like, it's like, are they just here to fuck with people? Like, I just never got it.
Well, I mean, you nailed it. That's what they were there. They were just there to fuck with people.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just stick to whatever Nazi bands you guys listen to. I don't know. Like, why are you here?
I never understood any of that.
Yeah, like Bethlehem, PA had some bad ones, like at Scarlett O'Hara's. Like, there's just all these venues that's like, oh man, it's going to be fucking risky if I go to this show.
Yeah.
And you know, they loved coming out for Sick of It All and Agnostic Front.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that was it. Like, it's just like, God damn it. And I love these bands, and it's like I can't even enjoy the bands I want to see.
Right. They'd come out for AF, and it was like it didn't even make sense, you know? Like, yeah, I don't know.
I just didn't get it. So, but yeah, like that was the only shitty part until like eventually, you know, those dudes just disappeared, you know? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, now no one's going to shows, but I don't know how prevalent that is in hardcore these days. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really
Hopefully
know.
not much.
I think it's like the Trump supporters, they're there. You just don't know they're there until like the dude becomes president.
Yeah, until they feel it's safe to speak up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
So I feel like they're still at shows. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Point of View formed, I think, in like 1989 with the first singer. I'm actually the third singer. People only know the singer before me, this dude Halsey, because I think that's when Point of View started playing out further and putting out records. With the first singer, there's just a demo tape. This dude Dane Robinson.
Okay. Because I'm pretty sure I have a Point of. I have to go dig it up. I don't even know where I think my records are upstairs somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I have a Point of View 7-inch.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's you on there or not.
No, Halsey's on the 7-inch. I'm on one tape and one record that never came out. We were recording in '94 when we broke up, and the drummer put all those tracks on our Facebook page, the Point of View Facebook page.
Okay.
But like when I went to go look for those tracks, they were gone. I don't know if they got pulled or if he pulled them, because like we're both admins of the page, but like I never had any of those tracks from that last record we were recording. Like he somehow managed to get them all. I think we still owed the studio money.
sounds about right.
So they weren't going to release those tracks, but I don't know. I heard them on their Facebook page. I was like, oh shit, they're there. And then one day they weren't there. So I'm going to have to ask Tony what happened. But so the Point of View formed in like 89 with Dane singing. I have the tape just because I was friends with those guys and I skated with those guys a lot in 89. I was like, oh, sick. My friends have a band. And, you know, so I was like hyped on them. And then something happened. Dane quit or got kicked out. I don't really know. I didn't hang out with those dudes that hardcore to like know. And then Halsey became the singer. And that's when the band started taking on like a more, you know, like it seemed more real because I'm like, oh shit, it's like sick. It's taken on this direction with like songs about like more important things, you know, like animal liberation and all this stuff. So it's like, oh, sick. Like this band's like, you know, and that's like the early 90s, you know, around that time, like vegan straight edge stuff, you know, like, because I think before it was just vegetarian straight edge, you know, with like hearing like Youth of Today and like No More. And like, I'm like, sick, I got to stop eating meat now because Youth of Today is like telling me not to eat meat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all those bands, like I paid attention to the lyrics. It's like, dude, fuck it. Like, you know, and you're looking at what's going on around you. So the lyrics really hit hard because you're not trying to be a jock. You're not trying to like get drunk and party with some fucking idiots. And then you're not trying to like eat animals anymore. I don't know. Like I paid attention to everything, and Nazi punks still need to fuck off. So it was like, I'm blending, you know, Dead Kennedys with like Youth of Today and then Earth Crisis, but they got too extreme. But like that first Earth Crisis 7-inch, I was like, damn, these dudes are hard.
Yeah.
And then they got too crazy with it. They took it to another level where I was like, they're chewing your face about this shit. Because I'm like the dude that's just lead by my example. I'm not going to fucking yell at you for not being straight edge or not being vegan. Like, I don't care what you do, but it's cool if you did it. But
yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, for me, that was like when I first heard hardcore, I don't think I liked the music aspect of it much at all. It seemed real abrasive, but when I understood what the message was, that drew me in. It was more the message for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you grew to like the other parts.
Yeah, you hit it, nail on the head right there. So Halsey, I don't know. So Halsey quit or got kicked out. I don't know what happened, because again, by that time I really wasn't hanging out too much with those guys because they weren't skating. So I was just skating and going to shows, and it's like, all right. They knew I knew all the songs just because I went to like every show. And so Pat's like, hey man, you want to try out to sing? And after one tryout, they're like, oh, you're perfect. You're in the band. And that was like 92.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, sick. I still kind of almost had this skater love park mentality, you know, because I'm skating every day, and skaters were such dicks at this time. We were such assholes. Like, I'm still a dick, I'm still an asshole, but I'm probably less of it now that I'm older.
Yeah.
But like at that age, when I was like 18, it's just like, fuck you, fuck everybody, fucking skate or die, fuck, you know, like we're getting fucked with by cops and jocks, and all we want to do is skate. And I actually thought I was the shit because I was doing shit that other people weren't doing.
Right.
You know, because skateboarding was like this small thing. That's when it was ours, before it was like X Games and ESPN. It was still this underground, like subculture, counterculture thing. Well, I felt special for being a part of it.
Yeah. I want to ask you about that a little bit more, actually, but I don't want to derail you from the point of view thing.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, we, you know, so that's it. Like, I'm in the band, and we lasted from 92 to 94. We, you know, we traveled up to like, you know, Syracuse, Buffalo area. Like, you know, we played some shows up there, and I think we went as far south as like Virginia Beach, Richmond. And that was it. It was a lot of shows between 92 and 94, kind of interfered with like my skateboarding.
Yeah.
I would say, like, between band practice and playing a show on the weekends. It's just like, fuck, man, I'm trying to skate.
It definitely interferes, because I agree. Once we started taking Tenure Fight seriously, I wasn't skating nearly as much, and it showed, you know.
Yeah, it showed for me because all my friends were getting better, and I'm like, fuck, man, these dudes are learning all these tricks, and I'm like, not, because I got fucking band practice.
Yeah.
But and hardcore was like in a weird period in like 92, 93, 94. Hardcore fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Like, all the good bands that I grew up listening to had broke up. Yeah. Like, there was no good New York City hardcore scene. Like, because that was my shit. I ended up loving New York City hardcore. I was like, all the best bands come out of New York. You know, Gorilla Biscuits, Youth Today, Sick of It All, AF, fucking Raw Deal, Killing Time, whatever. Like, you know, I loved every fucking band from New York. Burn. Yeah, and
it got real emo.
Then, like, you know, like, I'm just like, fuck, what happened? There was like this screamo, ebullition style hardcore, and emo core, and then there was like, you know, dudes like Flagman dressing like straight out of J. Crew, and you're just like, God, what the fuck's going on to hardcore? It got like soft, you know. You got Lifetime wearing sweater vests and
right. And some of that stuff was good, but it got it was. I mean, that's exactly why things, you know, turned back around. But
and I don't know where we fit in that whole scheme of things. But we broke up because of music. Like, the hardcore was at this weird area of 94. There was bands that sounded like Earth Crisis and fucking Hatebreed, and we played with Hatebreed a bunch too, which another band I never understood. But so bands were going this heavy hardcore route, or they're going like this emo-y route, or they were going like this pop punk route, because Green Day was like kind of coming on strong, and bands were starting to sound very poppy. And we had infighting in the band of which way to like move the band, which direction and stuff. And I remember the drummer was really into 311 at that time, and he wanted us to sound like 311, and that was it. Everyone was done after that.
Wow.
And we broke up like recording like the new record, because we were trying to keep it like kind of hard and heavy. I think we were trying to go like this Hatebreed, Snapcase, Earth Crisis route, because we saw that those bands were like bigger when we would play the shows with them. We're like, even though none of us were into like stuff like that, because dude, our covers were like Bad Brains
Yeah.
Gorilla Biscuits, Descendants. Like those are songs we covered.
Right.
And that's like the stuff that we kind of liked, like a blend of that sound.
Yeah.
And but it seemed like hardcore was going this hate breed route. So it's like, fuck, dude. And like, thankfully you guys came out, like 10-Yard Fight, In My Eyes, like Floor Punch, Fast Break. It was like reviving what I like grew up listening to. Like when all those bands came out, I was like, sick, dude, this is what we've been missing. And I loved Turning Point. So when we got to play like the Turning Point reunion show, I was like, damn, dude. It's like, because I saw Turning Point's last show and then we played the reunion show.
Okay.
And Turning Point's last show was with Burn. And it was like one of the best shows I ever went to.
Yeah.
And and then, but yeah, so we broke up. It sucked. Sometimes I still want to do a band. Like I joke about it with LaCroix because LaCroix's already written these songs and we got a name. And the hardest part still to this day is finding a fucking drummer.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for a band. Like Scott Weingarten from, Text the Reason, he's down to play bass. And LaCroix's going to play guitar. I'm going to sing.
You should do it. We're trying
to get Andrew Black on drums. But like he's so busy. And then Sammy's basically my neighbor in LA. And I was like, well, Sammy's in every band. Like his whole life, Sammy's in every band.
Right.
So it's like, yo, Sammy, you want to be in another band?
Dude, you guys should totally do that.
But who the hell wants to see some dudes pushing 50 in a fucking band?
Who cares?
I don't. The young kids don't. It's like, damn, grandpa's up there singing. Who the fuck wants to see this shit?
Well, I don't know. I always think about it. I mean, just even a project for fun. And then if people are into it, cool. If not, you had fun. You did something,
It sounds very old skate rockish, like the songs. Very fast, quick, like songs, like, JFA type style shit. Yeah. So it's like, damn, dude, I'm down for this. Like LaCroix's like, I banged out all these songs. Listen. I'm like, dude, let's do it. But,
I think you should. I always say, who was I talking to? Oh, I was talking to a Ram the other day. A Ram from Champion and Betrayed.
I know. I don't know him personally, but I know
who
of him. Yeah.
Well,
no, he is.
I mean, he can. Well, I don't know if he plays drums, but he can write the songs and he can sing. And I'm super jealous. Like I wish I could. If I could make my own songs, I would totally just make project bands all the time. But I have no musical skill whatsoever, so I'm left. I have no one really around me at this point that could help me out with that. So I'm just like,
you live too far away from everybody.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't do anything.
But and then like it's funny because like all the dudes I was in the band with, they're totally out of the hardcore scene. Well, Bull Gervasi was in Point of View for a little bit, and he was also in like Policy of Three, matter of fact.
Yeah.
But he still goes to shows, man. He's still vegan straight edge dude. We're like the same age. Like I saw him at a year ago. Damn, it's crazy. A year ago I was already at a show because I got like the Facebook memory. Yeah. It was like Judge and Youth of Today played in like Asbury Park, and I was home for the holidays. I went and I saw Bull. I was like, damn, like I'm like surprised to see you. He's like, why, man? I still listen to hardcore. I still go to shows. I'm like, I keep forgetting, man, because so many of the dudes from back in the day,
right,
like especially that I was in a band with, don't. Yep. And the drummer, I guess, from my band, this dude Tony, he was like lurking around Facebook, and he discovered This Is Hardcore like 2 years ago. Yeah. And he's like, yo, how do we play this? I'm like, I know the dude Joe Hardcore that does that. I'll hit him up. Nothing. No, he like ghosted me. Like, but if I hit him up like, yo, Joe, I'm in town for This Is Hardcore. Can you put me on the list? Yeah, I got you all 4 days.
Right.
But like, I asked him, I was like, yo, can my band Point of View play? We haven't played since 94. What can we do? Like, you could put us on first day, first band. I don't care. We just want to play. Nothing. Ghosted me. He's been ghosting me for years because every year, this was like a couple years ago. Like I said, like every year right before This Is Hardcore, when he posts like on his Instagram page, who should play This Is Hardcore this year? I'm like, and I just sent him a text. I'm like, yo, let us play.
Hit him up again. Just
well, not now, obviously, but
oh,
maybe
well.
next year or the year after, whenever shows come back. We'll definitely be closer to 50 by then. Or Pat might be 50 by then. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we like I think Tony got the itch because he saw, like, when he was watching This Is Hardcore and he sees all these bands we used to play with, like, playing. He's like, why aren't we playing this? That's right there in our backyard in Philly. Like, why aren't we playing this show? And I'm like, I don't know, like, because no one knows who the fuck we are. Like, Steve Kim's going to be up front singing along, our only fan.
Well,
like,
you guys
fuck.
you're around in like a weird time because you mentioned a bunch of bands that you know, like Flagman and
yeah, we played with Flagman a lot.
I remember. I was just gonna say, I remember them being fairly big, but maybe not. Like in today's terms, not. But they're not one
big
of those
for the area.
And the like, era also. Like
yeah,
but
like. If I mention Flagman to somebody, they're not going to fucking know who that is.
No, not unless they're, you know, our age, you know.
And from our area, I think. Like, no one on the West Coast can know who the fuck Flagman is.
Right.
But we played with them a bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, we played the New Bedford Fest.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, like, pretty big deal back then.
Yeah, back then, for sure. I wanted to ask, like, Bones is a pretty big company, obviously. It's like, I don't know.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah, so
it's big, but it's not as big as people think. But it's bigger than, like, you know, a lot of the smaller brands that people run out of their, like Street Plant. Mike V runs that out of his garage.
Right.
It's bigger than Street Plant. It's not as big as Nike.
But it's not Nike. Yeah, but even
we're not a publicly traded company.
But you know, so skateboarding and BMX and hardcore, like all and a lot of that stuff's kind of, or at least punk has kind of gotten mainstream over the past, you know, I would say 20 years ago it was more than I really wanted. When X Games,
that's where it changed,
popped up, and I remember working at 411 and being real torn on it. I felt like, well, if it wasn't, I wouldn't have a job. But at the same time, I missed that era of just being able to go down the street and seeing a skateboarder and just connecting and instantly becoming friends. I don't know. What do you see? What are your thoughts on that whole deal there? Like, I mean,
how much time we got?
As much as you want. I don't want to get you in any trouble at all. But
no, I mean, I'm going to voice. This is my views. Like, as George Powell put it to me one day, as soon as it was on X Games, the genie was out of the bottle. The genie's never going back in the bottle.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be what it was when we were younger, me and you, as in we, us. Right. It's never going to be like, you know, that person that's wearing the Vision streetwears. I know that person's a skater, you know, or that person that's wearing the Youth of Today shirt. I know that person's like in the hardcore. All that shit is just fashion now. You can buy that shit wherever, you know, like I feel like, you know, like you go to Zoomies, buy yourself a Thrasher shirt, wear Thrasher, never skated, don't even know Thrasher's a magazine. Just see a logo on fire. And so now it's like you can buy like skate fashion and culture, hardcore, you know, you could buy that shit. You could go to whatever, what's that mall store that sells t-shirts on the wall? I fucking
like
forget.
Hot Topic, yeah.
Hot Topic, that's it. So there you go. You can go to Hot Topic and buy yourself a fucking shirt, and now you're fucking hardcore because you wear this band, you know, like, I don't know, it's not the same, and it's never going to be the same. Like I was saying, I felt special when I was like younger because I did it. I was like the only one in my high school of 1,000 people that rode a skateboard, that had green hair and wearing Doc Martens. Like, I remember wearing Doc Martens to school, and someone's like, what are you wearing Amish shoes for? And like, I got Doc Martens because Matt Hensley's skating in Doc Martens in a fucking 8th Street video. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to do the same thing. You know, I'm buying Fred Perry shit because of Matt Hensley, you know, and it's like, Matt Hensley's the bridge between like punk and hardcore and skateboarding. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I'm dressing weird, dyeing my hair a different color, Manic Panic hair dye from Zipperhead. I'm looking like the freak. That's the norm now. Like, that's so normal. And it's like everything we did just you know, like you can't look at someone and like think like, oh, this dude's a skater. Like if I don't already know you from back in the day and you're wearing, you know, like I just don't know if they really skate anymore.
Right.
Or if I'm going to see them stage diving at a show.
Right. And I would say it was, and back then, to go back to what you were saying earlier, how, you know, skaters could be, you know, kind of like dicks. It was part of that was that whole thing where it was us against the world, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, it's kind of like a badge of courage. And you went into your day, you would leave your house ready to
deal with shit of the world, because you're going to get shit
exactly
for looking different, dressing different, fucking wearing a chain wallet back then. Like what, if you're in a fucking biker gang, you're wearing a chain wallet. Matt Hensley made that shit cool.
Yeah.
Everything Matt Hensley did made it look cool and acceptable. And it's like, fuck everyone in school looking the same, wearing IOU and Z Cavarici. Fuck that. Like, I'm going to come in looking different, and I do my own shit. You guys only know people in your high school. I know people in other states and other cities, man, because of this fucking skateboard.
Exactly.
I'm like going to go see the world. I'm not going to live in this fucking little bubble. Like, you guys are going to fucking do what you're told, go to school, get your fucking, go to college, get your job, and that's it. Never experience life. Like, that's it. Yeah. Like, and I don't know if that's the same feeling now, because fuck, man, I work contests, and there's like skate parents like yelling at their kids to like do a kickflip and a run. It just brought me back to like little leagues. I played baseball for like 9 years, and it's like my dad was never one of those like parents yelling at me for striking out. But, you know, I'm looking in the crowd, and there's other parents yelling at their kids for striking out or missing the ball. Like, oh, you let that go through your legs. You got to get down on one knee. And they're yelling at their kids. And it's like, and that's what skateboarding's become. Like, there's parents that have probably never kickflipped yelling at their kid for missing a kickflip in their contest run.
Yeah, I wonder about that.
Like, it's corny, man. It sucks. Skateboarding sucks, dude.
I wonder about that sometimes. Like, is there like, are they, you know, in a couple months taking their kids to soccer practice? 'Cause now it's soccer season. Is there like skateboarding season? Like, I mean, is it that bad? No.
So this is what it became. Like, X Games was like the gateway drug. You know, it's like smoking the weed. It's like your gateway to other drugs.
Yeah.
So like once X Games happened, there was like Gravity Games, and you know, now there's like Street League and Dew Tour and all these like, you know, big corporate things. So, and this is like the problem I have with it. Like, I understand those things have to exist in order for me to have a career.
Yeah.
And my friends that work in skateboarding have careers, and professional skateboarders to make money, because now they're making money like they've never seen before.
Right.
Like, we got into skateboarding, you know, at the tail end of it, where there's a handful of companies, and those dudes were making good money because there's only so many pros and so many companies. And so, what? Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, and also some of them are able to keep doing it like almost, you know, well into their 40s and 50s, because there's actually money to take care of them. So that
like Steve Caballero is still skating, and he's still making money from skateboarding, as he should, because he's one of the pioneers. Same with like Tony Hawk and like, you know, Christian Asoy. Like, I'm psyched these dudes are still making money. They deserve it, man. They put so much into it. Yeah, let them still eat, man.
Right.
We wouldn't be doing it without those dudes.
So it's
like they deserve a place in skateboarding.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think it's kind of it's just a double-edged sword, I think.
It is, because like you can't have it both ways. It still can't be core and cool without the money.
Right.
And, you know, that's like us yelling when like bands would sign to major labels. Oh, they sold out. I mean, what they sell out. They're still the same dudes. They just want to get paid for making music.
Right.
Like nothing about, I mean, for the most part, I don't know if anything about them has changed, but I'd like to think they haven't. Like, you know, it's like you need to, you're not living at your parents' house anymore. Yeah. You know, you're not, you know, it's like you got bills. Like, the real world is out there. You got a family, you got to support it. It's like selling out is like doing something you don't want to do to pay the bills. Yeah. It's like you said, like having one of those shitty jobs where it's like you hate your job. Maybe you're getting paid well. You're sitting in a cubicle all day. You're not really experiencing life. You know, you're in your warehouse driving a forklift. It's like, fuck, it's like, it's putting food on the table, but it's like, there's probably, you know, you had a dream, you want to do something else, but you sold out, you know,
Right.
you got to pay the bills.
Right.
So it just depends on like your definition of sellout. It's easy to say someone's sold out when you're still in high school and you don't know what the real world's about, or, you know, you're still in college living at your parents' house or in a dorm and you still don't know the real world. Like as soon as you get older and you know real world and real bills, real shit.
I guess the part for me is that it makes me a little sad is that I don't know that if you start skateboarding today, like you'll never know what that was like, and I guess that it doesn't matter because they never know what they don't know. But I don't know, it was just seemed real special. You know,
they don't know because there's skate parks now, like in every fucking city, and you know most of these kids don't even skate street. Like they skate a skate park. They grow up skating a skate park. They go to the skate park, and the skate park's all they know.
Right.
And I dealt with that when I made some post about like, you know, all cops are bad and shit like that. And then when there's skaters coming out of the woodworks, like defending police, I'm like, well, you've never been arrested for skateboarding. I have. I've been arrested twice for skateboarding, for fucking skateboarding. And when you get, you know, like, you know, when I'm going through like the airport through customs and an arrest shows up and I got to go to secondary and I'm telling some customs guy, yeah, I was arrested for skateboarding, because they don't know what it was.
Right.
When it pops up on their screen, it just shows I've been arrested twice. And they're like, what the hell you been arrested for? It just says like a misdemeanor. And I'm like, skateboarding. And it's like, some fucking cops got time to do that? I'm like, exactly.
Yeah. I remember getting, same here. I mean, I never actually been arrested, but I've had to go to court to like get my skateboard back, you know, and the guy just like, the judge laughed it out. He's like, what are these cops? Like, they have that much time on their hands? Like, even, you know, it was pretty funny.
Well, me and like several other skaters were caught a block away from Love Park, like literally like a week after they passed a law, like making it a $300 fine for skateboarding at Love Park in like 1996. And we full on got arrested. I thought like, you know, they're just going to write us a ticket or something like that. No, man, I was in the paddy wagon, went to jail. They're serving you like, I didn't eat, but they're serving like a cheese sandwich and like Wawa iced tea, and like you're sitting in a fucking cell with like people that have committed like real crimes. And you're like, this is fucking really happening. And then you got to go to court.
Yep.
And, you know, and the cops make it sound like, oh, just go to court and tell your side of the story. Everything's going to be fine. Didn't know I needed a lawyer. They give us like a public defender who doesn't know shit. We talked to a public defender for like a couple seconds before we're in front of a judge, and there's a cop on like like, dude, it looked like Law and Order. There's like a cop on a stand telling like a whole different scenario and a lie, like of what didn't even happen that day.
Yeah.
And it was insane. And from that moment on, I'm like, well, fuck this. Like, I'm going to make sure no one ever catches me like again. But I got caught again once, but
yeah,
I was like, I'm never getting caught by the cops again. I'm going to run my ass off. But yeah, so like kids are never going to know what it's like to even have that experience of like, damn, the cops are coming. We got to run. You know, like you just get dropped off by your parents at the skate park, or your parents are at the skate park watching you skate.
Yeah, it's weird.
and it's like now when they skate, we skated because like initially it was something fun to do when I was 13. But then when, you know, you get more involved with it, it's kind of like, I'm fucking different. I'm doing something different from the world. Like you have an identity from it.
Yep.
Now what's your identity? Your identity is like, I see Nigel Houston, Ryan Sheckler making a ton of money from skateboarding. That I want to be that.
Right.
It's like, I never wanted to be that. I wanted to be Mark Gonzalez. I wanted to be some weird dude on a skateboard doing tricks.
Yeah. It's different motivation.
Yeah. And I think that's what the parents see now. They see that like Tony Hawk's making all this money off of like Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. And there's all these pro skaters like living in mansion. Well, it's like 20 of them. It's like the 1% of skateboarding makes actual money off of skateboarding. It's like the real world. It's like there's 1% of these gazillionaires making like a ton of money. Skateboarding's the same. Like, unless you're one of these top pros, you're still going to be like you could be a mid-level pro where you still need a fucking regular 9-to-5 job just to call yourself a pro. Like, that part of skateboarding still hasn't changed. Like, you could be a pro for like fucking foundation making like $500 a month. Your name's on a skateboard, but like, here you go. Here's your $500 check a month.
Yeah.
And, you know, you still got to go fucking pack boxes at UPS to like go have your pro career. Like, I mean, and that is a majority of skateboarding. That's what a lot of people don't know. They just see Nyjah on TV. And it's like, they think every pro skater lives like that. And it's not, that's sadly not the case. And I'm not taking anything away from Nyjah, because that dude rips on a skateboard. He's not my personal favorite, but everything he does on a skateboard is really hard and he'd really kill himself. So I appreciate like the level he's taking skateboarding to, but not everyone's on that level also.
So, I hear that.
It's weird, man. Like, I mean, as much as I fucking personally wish skateboarding was like this core underground thing, I know that's just not the reality of it. And it's just going to get bigger, and all these people that hide on slap message board like skateboarding shouldn't be in the Olympics. Well, it's already too late for that.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's just about adapting. It's like skateboarding can still be what you want it to be. It's still a very much individual thing. Like, I love personally going skateboarding. That's why I'm 46, skating with like 2 bad knees, a bad ankle, a bad Achilles. I'm still going to go skate later on today. After I get off the phone with you, I'm going to go skate. It's like, I don't have to, but I want to. You can go slappy a curb somewhere in a parking lot by yourself or with your friends. Like, you don't like, is skateboarding being in the Olympics affecting your ability to go slappy a curb?
Right. I mean,
that's,
and I would say the only real thing that bothers me about it is not being able to, like, you know, you go out in the public and everyone's wearing Vans or Airwalks or, you know, it's like, I mean, Airwalks, that ship
well,
has long sailed, but
they sell Airwalks at Payless. So people still are wearing Airwalks.
Right. So, but you know what I mean? Like, I do miss that part about it, but yeah, you're right. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. That's for sure.
Yeah, no way, man. Vans got over 600 retail stores, you know, in the United States, man. Like, everybody's wearing Vans. There's rap songs about Vans. You know what I mean? Like, it's too late. It's just normal. Like, I mean, it was bound to happen, I guess, because if you look at all the other shit that was going on in society, it was stagnant and boring. It's like, you know, like, do people still want to wear like the same old boring shoes, or they want to look like a skater? They want to look cool. Like, we've always been on the forefront of fashion. Yeah. So people just want to look cool like us now, I guess. But
I guess that's it.
Well, but yeah, it's all good, man. Like, skateboarding I'm still going to skate. I mean, I personally hate where it's at in the world of things. Like, that's my own personal thing, but I have to put my personal beliefs aside because technically it's still my job, man. And I don't want to fucking have some other job.
Well, that actually was my next question. So if you weren't working in the skate industry, we skipped a bunch of stuff, but I know you've done different things over the years in the skate industry. You've filmed. I know you filmed a lot for 4-on-1. And then what other things have you done? And what would you do at the end of that? I wanted to ask, what would you do if you weren't working in the skate? Like, what would you want to do if you weren't working for the skate industry?
I mean, fuck, man. I've had, you know, shitty jobs from like my whole childhood, like delivering newspapers, you know, because like skateboarding is expensive and my mom doesn't want to buy the shit. So, you know, deliver newspapers and, you know, scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins, you know, like just to support my skateboard habit until I could get sponsored and get like free shit or discounted shit, you know. And I never had the intention of working in skateboarding. My only intention was to become a professional skateboarder. That was it. And I think the first time I went to California was like January 1995. Drove out to SF with like my roommate at the time, Serge Stratnowski, this dude Kai Laws, who I grew up skating with, OG Love Park guy, and this girl that we knew that was moving to San Diego. And we're like, fuck it, we'll split gas money, we'll share driving, let's just go. And like, you know, and I get out to California and I realize, because this is pre-internet, so that's another reason skateboarding is advancing rapidly now, is because they see shit on Instagram, and you could go to the skate park and learn whatever Shane O'Neill just did at his skate park. Back then, we had to wait for a video to come out on VHS. By the time we get that video on the East Coast, that video is already a year old. Yeah, you know, because they already shot that shit a year before. These dudes are already working on newer stuff. So when I get to California, we went to San Diego for like a week, went to LA for like a day, and then we spent like 3 weeks in SF. And I'm watching all these dudes, because it's the tail end of EMB, Embarcadero. Yep. Sorry, because EMB is the crew, Embarcadero is the spot. Can't get it mixed up because those dudes hate that shit. But so, you know, I got the tail end of Embarcadero. Like, I'm skating there like late at night, because there was a cop already posted up there. So there was like a weird window you could skate really late at night. And it was the beginning of Pier 7. And I'm watching all these pros like just do the most insane shit. And from that moment, I was like, well, I'm never going to be pro. Like, I'm not as good as these dudes. Like, I was as good as other dudes on the East Coast that I was skating with. But once I got to like California and I saw these dudes like light years ahead, I was like, I got to figure something else out. Like, I might as well just go back to school. Because I always like toyed with like going to school. Always been a math nerd. I'm like, I could just get some job and that's it. I'll just fucking work and that's it. Maybe not even skate anymore. Like, I was like already thinking about just quitting skating. 'Cause I was like so bad at it back then. And I was just like, kind of kept doing it, kind of went back to school. I got hurt actually on a skate trip in Boston. It was like 96, skating some like abandoned bridge, dislocated my elbow. Still got bills sent to Panama Dan's house to this day, I think. These awesome. Dudes had to throw me over a fence, and they took me to the hospital, but they took me to like the fancy hospital, and I have no health insurance, so they sent me to the ghetto hospital, right where the brick bank is. Okay. That everyone used to skate. Yeah, dude, I sat in that ER for like 8 hours with my elbow out of the socket. It sucked. But so, you know, I get the elbow back in. I got to do physical therapy. Can't even fucking bend my arm. All my roommates are sponsored at the time. Like, I only had like a shop sponsor. These dudes were like legit sponsored. And this dude, Brian Smith, who was my roommate, was like filming for the Physics Wheels video. He's like, hey, man, I need to film. Can you just film me while you're hurt? And I was like, yeah, I could still hold the camera. And so I filmed like half his video part, and then I got paid for it. I was like, wait, what? You can get paid for filming? This is like a job? And like, that was like the easiest money I ever made. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'll just, and somehow I just became the dude holding the camera for a lot of sponsored skaters in Philly. And like, Dan Wolf was moving to California to go work for Giant, and he was working for Element and working on Element videos. So First Division wheels and like nicotine wheels, like Silver Star, all that shit was starting out in Maryland. And those dudes got me a camera. They're like, hey, you know, like, you already live with two of the dudes we sponsor, and a bunch of guys we sponsor live in Philly. Like, you're going to be our filmer. And I was like, all right. And so I'm filming for that. Like, I was like, I guess, like, I kind of just fell into it. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I didn't set out to film skateboarding. It kind of just happened because I was in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place with my injury, where it's like, I did a good job on the Physics Wheels thing that these other guys wanted me to film them in Philly because Dan Wolf was the only filmer and he moved away. And Ryan G was filming, but he was also shooting photos, and he was a staff photographer for Transworld. So he necessarily didn't want to film all the time. So that lasted only for a little while because all those companies went out of business literally one day, because the dude who owned all those brands was like a gambler. And I guess he was in debt to like the mafia for like a lot of money. So either he had to disappear or they made him disappear. I just know it all abruptly ended. Like First Division, Nicotine, Capital Skateboards, Silver Star Skateboards. It was out of the same distribution, just ended one day. Intensity Skates, they used to do mail order. And Thrasher back in the day, that dude Mike Agnew, he owned all that shit. And it seriously just ended one day. And I'm sitting with all this footage now for a video that's never going to come out. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do with all this footage? And I kind of did some stuff for, actually, I don't even know if I did stuff for 411 yet, because this is before I went to Japan. So this is like right at the end of the summer of 98. And so I just send all this footage to 411. And Colin Kennedy calls me up right away. He's like, dude, you got so much gold on here. Like, you're like the hardest working filmer, or we're just all lazy out here in California. I'm like, nah, man, I was working on a video project. Like, that's like a year's worth of footage I just sent you. Like, you guys can use whatever you want for chaos or whatever. And then Ortiz hooked me up. Ortiz calls me up right after that. He's like, hey, man, we need like an East Coast filmer. You want to be like our guy? And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'll send you some projects to work on, some guys to film with. And next thing you know, like, I'm going on trips. Like, they're sending me to Europe to film contests, because it's like, I guess it's easier to send me from Philly to Europe than some dude from California to Europe. It's shorter flight, cheaper flight. And here I am, like, going on trips with like pro skaters I never met. And I'm just in the mix, like, instantly. Like, they're sending me down to Florida for, go film Tampa Am and Tampa Pro. And I'm like, all right, never been. Like, I skated Tampa Am once. That was another thing that was like a super reality check too. So like, I skate Tampa Am one year, I think it's like 98. And I have to go after Rick McCrank. And it's just like, fuck, this dude's like doing nollie hard flip over the pyramid. And at that time, a kickflip over the pyramid was like my hardest trick.
Right.
And I was like, God, dude, I got fucking. So it was funny because like I was in Tampa Am. A few months later, I'm filming Tampa Pro for 411. Like, that's how fast my career was really over.
That's funny. No,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I can relate, because that was always my dream, to be a pro skater or a pro BMXer, and I knew I'd never be a pro skater. But I remember trying to ride a couple BMX contests and realizing that it just was not happening.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't have that reality check. Like, I knew, maybe because I just want more stability in my life. Like, I just didn't want to be like struggling trying to like make this pro dream happen, that unless I really pushed myself and really got broke off, like, it wasn't going to happen. And after I dislocated my elbow, like, I was in so much pain. I'm like, I never want to feel this pain again. Like, it kind of like, I limited like what I was going to do. Like, I wasn't going to like slam as hard or try as hard or stuff. Like, I wasn't going to jump down rails or like jump down stairs. Like, I'm just going to keep it to ledges and flat ground. And my skating became like super like minimal. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to help me get pro. Like, I gotta like start hucking. And but that was the reality check. And like, I made like I skated for this company here in Philly called Philadelphia Experiment, and there was beef with the two owners, so we splintered off and started this thing called Abstract. So when I released that video, it was like the Abstract video, and like, I had a part in it, but I was like, my skating was mediocre to like the other dudes in the video, and those other dudes went on to get bigger sponsors from this small like local company video I made. Like, I made like 500 copies on VHS, and we spent 97 to 99 filming it. And I was like in film school like at the time at Temple University, so I was always back and forth, like, I'm gonna go for a semester, I'm gonna take off for a semester, because I was like trying to juggle like a college career with like this pro dream career. And making that video kind of helped all those dudes. Like, the one dude, Tim Ashiel, ended up getting on Pop War because Pop War was starting. He got on New Deal. He had a couple tricks in the 7-year glitch video, but then from there they took him to Pop War. And dude Damian Smith ended up getting on Santa Cruz, and I filmed like his Santa Cruz part and a part for Thrasher for him. So like, I mean, I didn't get sponsored, but other dudes got sponsored, and I got to film their stuff for other companies, which I'm like, all right, I'm still making money filming. I'll still go to school. Like, I'm just trying to juggle all this shit. And
you still got to be a part of it.
Yeah, I still got to be a part of it. And, you know, I think the one dude ended up getting on Traffic, and the other dude got on LibTech. And, yeah, Rich Adler got on Traffic. Brandon John got on LibTech. I'm still in Philly, you know, like I was content, you know, like getting paid some money from 411, you know, contributing to other skate videos, going to school, you know, delivering pizzas at Bertucci's. Like, I was like hustling, like I was content with life because, you know, skateboarding was still like this kind of smallish thing, because this is like early 2000s, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I can do this. I had zero desire to ever move to California. Like, I was content with that. And Ortiz would always be like, hey man, you really need to move out here to California. We need you more involved with day-to-day stuff and 411 and like the industry. I was like, by that time I was already going back and forth to California a lot, from like the late 90s to early 2000s, where it's like, I don't really like Southern California, man. You got to drive everywhere. You know, you guys sit in traffic. You skate one spot a day because like it takes an hour to get everywhere. And like, I have zero desire to do that. I'm like, I kind of like SF because, you know, you can skate from spot to spot or take the train or the bus. Like, it's a smaller city. Like it was really
like an East
similar.
Coast city.
Yeah, like it was similar to Philly. Like, because same with Philly, it's like I had a car, but I had a car to drive to other cities to like skate other shit. But if we were filming for the most part in Philly, it's like I could skate up to Love Park in like 10 minutes. You know, we could skate a bunch of spots all in downtown. I could film a bunch of shit. Like, you know, you didn't have to drive anywhere. So that's one of the things I hated about California. And like, I remember like I'm sitting in film class and like I'm opening my mail and there's like a per diem check for like fucking $5,000. Because they're going to send me to India for like those around the world videos.
Okay.
And I'm just like, God damn, this is like a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
And like, I'd never seen like that much money in my life. And there's a plane ticket to like India. I'm like, dude, I never thought in a million years I would go to India or have the opportunity to go to India. So I go to like, you know, all my professors. I'm like, hey man, I need to like take a leave of absence for like 3 weeks to a month because I got to go on this trip to India. Like, is there any way I could still stay enrolled and, you know, not, you know, I still want to finish school? Because I think at this point I was like maybe 2 semesters away from like finishing school. And everyone was cool with it except for one of my professors who happened to be the department head. He's like, no, man, I can't let you just like leave for that long. It's like, well, I guess I just have to stop coming. Because I'm going to go to India.
Yep.
And that was it. From India, it just got bigger and bigger, because then we started doing those around the world videos, like a separate thing. And we kind of wanted to make that bigger because me and Claraval were like, no, we need to, because like the first one, it was just like I only had the India thing. But the second one, that was just me and Claraval. We did all the trips. And and Claraval like travels a lot too. So we're just like, dude, this should be our thing. Me and you do these things. And, you know, we talked to Ortiz and Freeberg, and it was going to be a separate thing. But then it's like, nah, they realized they were going to put too much money in it. And they were like over it. It's like, now you guys are just going to do 411 articles, like road trips and shit like that. Like, I don't think they wanted to invest any more money because I don't think they made a lot of money off of those around the world things.
Yeah. I was always kind of, I never really understood the money part of it until years later. I think I put together, because they grew real fast for a few years, and where that money really came from, you know?
Yeah. So that was it. And then one day I was like, fuck it, I'll just move out there. And then they got me sitting in there logging people's footage and, you know, all the grunt work at 411. That shit sucked. I'm like, dude, I want to capture everyone's footage. This sucks. trying to go out in the streets. I'm trying to film. I'm trying to get on a trip. And the funny thing is, when I moved out to LA, I only worked there for like a year because Sal Barbier like took me away. And, you know, like growing up skating, Sal Barbier was also like one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Where did you go from there?
So Sal used to do like the intros and the Grapevine and all that shit at 411. And he met me one day there. He's like, "What are you doing over here?" It's like, "Oh, they got me. I'm just logging and capturing footage." He's like, "You film, you edit?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do everything." He's like, "Yeah, I want you to come work for me." I was like, "What?" And that was it. And that was like the hardest thing I had to tell those dudes, that I was like quitting 411, because it's like that was like my real first job in the industry.
Right.
You know, like that was it. Like Ortiz, like Colin, Kennedy, like those dudes got me in the door, you know, like, and I felt like I was like turning my back on them. But there was also, this was around the time the whole Wasserman Media thing was going on. And there was all these grumblings going on, like what's going on with 411. And, you know, like, and I would do a lot of my like work, like after hours. Sometimes I would be in there by myself, or that dude, Todd Franzen, would be in there doing all the snow stuff.
Okay.
So there would be all these weird secret meetings with like Johnny Schilleruff and like Steve Douglas and Paul Schmidt, Chris Ortiz, Josh Freeberg. I didn't know all those dudes had a piece of 411. You know, like I kind of knew it was all under Giant, because I used to go through the Giant warehouse and just like shopping spree. I'd fill up a shopping cart with like everything and get like free shit. You know, like I didn't know like all that stuff was like intertwined that much. I was still kind of clueless on that.
Right.
But you know, first I told Ortiz, and I told Freeberg, and, you know, there's no hard feelings, because Ortiz like, "Well, you know, I still want to kind of hire you here and there to do some freelance stuff." I'm like, yeah. I mean, anything you want, you know, like I got, you know, you gave me my first job, so I'm never going to say no to you. But yeah, so I worked at Elwood Clothing and Aesthetic Skateboards with, you know, right after their Ride or Die video came out, I started working there. Team manager, filmer, same deal, running all aspects of the brand. And that lasted like a year, because then all those dudes went to like Zoo York. And I was like, fuck. And so there was two other owners of those companies with Sal. Sal like had a beef with one of the owners, this dude Palmer. And so Sal just sold all of his shares to this dude Palmer. So now it's just Palmer and Luciano like owning it. And they wanted me to rebuild Aesthetics. And I was like, damn, that's going to be hard, because these dudes built the brand identity. Like I don't know if I could get any dudes to come ride for this shit. And they needed a team, because they were still sitting on a shitload of product. So I think they just needed to sell through the product, what it came down to. The Elwood Clothing, that was easy to get new riders for that, because like it was a clothing company and everybody loved the clothes. So it's like, okay, these are the dudes I like. So I brought in like Jack Saback, like Kenny Anderson was like the only one still on the team. So me and Kenny are trying to figure out like, who do we get? What do we do? And I put like that dude Kelly Hart on, and there was like a bunch of other pros I wanted, but like, I don't know, like the owner was like tight with the money. Like I was trying to put Jerhobel on, and a couple other dudes I was just like really into. And, you know, I was just butting heads with the owner, and I kept telling him, I was like, dude, we just have to start a new brand. We can't do aesthetics. We just have to kill aesthetics. Let's just start a new board company. Because that's when I was like talking heavily with like Rob Gonzalez and like Danny Montoya.
Okay.
Because I was like, damn, dude, I might be able to get these guys for aesthetics. But they're like, nah, man, that's like Clyde Singleton, Rob Welsh. Like those dudes built that brand. And it's like, if they're not here, it's like weird to like be here. And it's like, let's just start something new. And we wanted to start Listen through there with like Elwood. But the dude Palmer was like, nah, fuck that. I got to sell through this product that I already spent money on. I understand where he was coming from. Like at the time I didn't understand it, but now like years later, it's like, okay, I understand. He's got a warehouse full of product that he's got to get rid of, or he's going to lose his shirt. So we just all split off with Shimmery, who used to work at 411 also, and we started Listen.
Okay.
And it was like a small ass thing, man. It was literally all hands on deck. Me, Shimmery, Danny, Rob. Dude, I think there's one person doing sales, this girl, Melissa. And that was it, man. We were in there. We were packing orders. We're making phone calls. Rob's a graphic designer. Like when it's a 5-man operation, it's like, dude, you have to do anything and everything. And that experience of working at Listen, I really understood how a business works, because I saw like everything made from start to finish, like every aspect of a brand, from something being made to it going out the door. Like we all had a hand in that shit. So, I mean, when it's a small brand, I mean, it's kind of like a person living check to check, a company's living check to check. I mean, but I wouldn't change any of that for the world, because I really learned business just from those couple of years. Because we started that one like January 2005, and then when the economy shit in October 2008, it was over.
And did you must have I'm sure you take some of that with you into what you're doing now, as far as, and it's probably one of the reasons they value you, I would think, is that you know how to get shit done on a shoestring if needed.
For sure, man. Like I could jump in any position, man. I got a lot of fucking skill sets. Like from a dude who just wanted to be a pro skater, I could pretty much do any position at a company now. From pro skater to filmer to like now it's like, okay, I know everything now. I know how a company runs. I can do it. And production, sales, whatever.
Did you go
marketing?
Did you go right from Listen over to Bones? How did that happen?
Fuck, the economy sucked in 2008. Like October 2008, dude, I was unemployed for like a year and a half.
Okay.
Dude, it was rough. Like I'm trying to move back to Philly. My mom's telling me, no, just stay out there. There's nothing for you back here. And like you were saying, I could just go get any old fucking crappy job. It's like all my friends are blue collar guys that I grew up skating with. Like I could go fucking swing a hammer, fucking drive a forklift. I don't know. Like I could just go do something, because jobs were super scarce just in general in that time period. Like I think a lot of people were just unemployed, and like I'm just there collecting unemployment, sending out resumes, doing interviews, like almost got a job at S, like interviewing multiple times with Don Brown, like because they were looking for a team manager. I thought I was getting that one, didn't get it. Ended like right when I thought my unemployment was about to run out. I got a job at Vans to manage the skate park in Orlando. And, what people don't know about Vans is they're very corporate. I had no idea they were owned by a bigger company called VF Corp. And so since it's very corporate and I'm managing a skate park, I had to do a crazy background check. They have to make sure you're not sketchy or a pedophile, drug test, the whole nine. We do this whole procedure. Even though the job is in Orlando, Florida, I'm interviewing at their headquarters in California. And so I'm prepared to like just pick up my life, move from LA to Orlando. I'm like, all right, I don't want to manage a skate park forever, but I love the Vans brand, even though now I just found out that they're fucking corporate as fuck. It's basically Nike, but like everyone's still under delusion that Steve Van Doren owns this shit, which he doesn't. But they put him out there making waffles at events, and he's like still the face of the company, but he doesn't own that shit. So all you people listening who think Vans is fucking core and skate and this and that, corporate as fuck. It's Nike. It's Adidas. It's the same shit, man. It's just got this like facade of being core. But I mean, at that time, I'm already like older. I didn't have a job. I'm like, fuck, man, I don't give a fuck. I want to work for Vans. Like, I still think out of all the brands, I'm like, it's still like skate. They got so much skate history and skate. I'm like, I don't care how corporate it is. I'll work there. Maybe I'll work up the corporate ladder and parlay this into another job, and I'll be back in California, or at least out of Orlando, because I definitely didn't want to fucking move to Orlando. That place sucks. But there was no other opportunity. So I had to take what I could get. Literally 2 weeks before I'm about to move to Orlando, Rob Washburn, who's the brand manager for Bones Wheels, calls me up. I'm like, I don't even really know Rob. I know who he is just because he used to skate for PAL in the 80s. I know he's been doing Bones Wheels for like ever. He's like, hey, man, our team manager at Bones Bearings quit. Are you interested in the job? I'm like, hell yeah. He's like, all right, I'm going to line up an interview with this dude, Michael. He's going to call you and set up an interview. So I drive up to Santa Barbara, do the interview. I'm thinking it's going well. So at the end of the interview, I'm just like, hey, man, I'm just going to throw this out here. Like, I already got like another job lined up with Vans in Orlando. So I know you guys are interviewing like several other people for the position, but if you could tell me sooner than later if I got the job or not, that would be great. Because otherwise I got to move to Orlando like next week. And
no pressure.
No pressure. Sorry to throw this on you, but that's just my East Coast bluntness coming out.
Right.
And so this dude, Michael, calls me the next day. He's like, don't pack and move to Orlando. You got the job.
Nice.
And so I'm like, sick. And the crazy thing is the pay was exactly the same as like the Orlando job, which is like cool, but the cost of living in California is twice as much as Orlando.
Oh. But you get to stay in California.
I get to stay in California. I don't have to move to Orlando. And, and I'm working for like a fucking brand that has like a legacy and it's not corporate.
Yeah. And managing a skate park probably isn't nearly as cool as you might think on the surface.
No, I had to fucking go to a CPR class. I had to learn CPR. I had to do all this shit.
I mean, it's like it's like almost like a daycare, I would think.
Yeah, pretty much. But like at the time I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll get to skate this skate park in my off time, like after hours. Like I was trying to think of the positives of it. It's like I said, I only wanted to do it for like a year. I wasn't trying to fucking like stay there. But I think also the skate park, it also meant managing the shop too, because Vans had a retail store in there. I think there was a lot of responsibility that came with it. And I was like, fuck, I'm so glad I didn't do that. Because I hadn't worked retail in like forever, or being around that much people, forever. So I'm like, fuck, man, I had like a crappy retail job when I was like 19. I'm just like, God, I don't want to do this again, but I'll do it. Like I was like tired of being unemployed. Like being unemployed sucks, man. I was so bored. I was doing like weird freelance gigs. Like, that's when I started working the contests a lot. Because the dudes at Skate Park of Tampa knew I didn't have a job. So that's when they brought me in as an MC. Because they're like, we saw you MC this Listen demo in Miami. And I also MC'd this contest called Clash of the Crews that they did at the skate park in Miami, like back in like 2007. So the Skate Park of Tampa guys were there. They're like, oh, you did a good job. We're going to try you out for Tampa Am. And from there, I started doing Tampa Pro, and then they were doing Dam Am. And I started just traveling, doing contests. Like, they're like, look, man, we know you don't got a job, so we're just going to hire you for every event. So like, really thank you, like Ryan Clemens and Brian Schaefer, for really bringing me in when I like had nothing, because unemployment was literally enough to pay my rent. And like, that's it. And like, I started selling my records and selling old hardcore shirts, old skate stuff. Like, like I had a full-time eBay job of selling my shit and fucking working contests. And also for like a couple of those months, I lived in Colombia because I was dating this chick, and she was like the sister-in-law of our skateboard distributor when I worked at Listen. Like he was the distributor in Colombia. And so I had nothing going on, and I was like serious with this chick. So I'm like, I'll just go down there. And he offered me a job to, film and make a video of his like skate team. And I was like, all right, let me check it out. But, Colombia was like sketchier than it is now. I was like in Bogota, and I was like, God damn, man, this place is like scary. It's like, like we've skated some spots like in the projects and like in really bad neighborhoods in the States. But when you go to like another country where shit is bad, it's like really bad.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, man, this
makes even the law enforcement is scary. I mean, they're scary here too.
Yeah,
but
they'll shake you down for money.
Yeah.
If they know you're not from there, they'll like, it's just like wild, wild west out there.
Right.
So it's like, dude, that made Boys in the Hood look like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, fuck, man. Like, yeah, one of the houses in Philly, a skate house I lived in, was like a block away from the projects. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm glad I had that experience because it prepared me for Columbia, But after like, like a couple months of living there, like the girl, it didn't work out with the girl. And, the distributor was actually shady. He still makes listen boards in Colombia to this day, even though Listen hasn't been a company since 2008. He's still making Danny Montoya, Brian Brown, Rob G boards because he brought like all the fucking screens because that was when there was heat transfers. So he brought all the transfers and he just screens them on boards down there in Colombia, bootlegging shit. And I was like, dude, I'm so glad I never went to go work for that guy. I could sniff it out right away. That I was like, there's something off about this guy. So I got out of there, went back to the States, still unemployed, but working, jobs with Skate Park of Tampa, all their contests. And then there was this TV show called Zeke and Luther. I don't know if you remember that one. It was on Disney.
Not really.
So it's about these two kids that want to be pro skaters. Full on Disney show, super corny. My homie Jimmy Gorecki I grew up skating with was like one of the stunt coordinators on the show. So he was hired to make the skateboarding look authentic. So he hired everybody we were friends with that skated as like stunt guys.
Okay.
So he wanted to get me in to shoot all the skateboarding because there was like skate scenes where he's like, no, I need it to look like a skate video.
Right.
So he just didn't want some like Hollywood Union guy like pointing the camera and like, like how the news reporters always miss this shit. It's like it's some dude flying in the air. You don't have a point of reference of where they took off and where they're going.
Right.
So he's like, no, I need someone who shoots skateboarding to shoot the skateboarding. So Fred Savage was one of the producers of the show originally and like screenwriters. I get a meeting with Fred Savage at this studio because at the time I'm living in Hollywood in this like little studio apartment, 1-room studio apartment because that's all I could afford on like my unemployment. And fucking the studio, the Hollywood production company is literally like a few blocks from where I live. I'm like, oh man, I can just go over here and like, I'll meet you. I'll be there. So in this meeting with Fred Savage, I grew up watching The Wonder Years. I cannot stop thinking of this dude as Kevin Arnold the whole time I'm in there. I'm just like, dude, Kevin Arnold, like when's Winnie Cooper like walking in? Like I'm just like tripping out on this shit. And he's super spastic. Like, I don't know if he's just spastic or he's just coked out of his head, but like he's super spastic during the whole interview. And he gives me a copy of the script of the pilot. I still have it to this day. So I read the script and I was like, dude, this lingo is like insane. Like who the fuck talks like this? Like who the hell wrote this shit? Mm-hmm. And he wrote it with someone else. And so I hit up my friend Jimmy. I'm like, yeah, this shit sounds really corny, but if they hire me, I'm fucking down. Are you kidding me? I'm going to shoot some shit for Disney. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess this is around the time Fully Flared came out.
Okay.
So Jimmy's watching Fully Flared in his office, and Fred Savage walks by and he sees a snippet of Fully Flared. He's like, yo, who shot this? He's like, this is the guy we need to hire. And he's like, oh, Ty Evans did this video. I'll see what I could do. So Ty Evans ends up getting the job. But Ty Evans is like busy doing other shit because Ty's super busy. So Ty passes it off to Aaron Meza. So Aaron Meza ends up shooting all this stuff. I never got the job. And so instead of getting that job, they hired me to do this promotional tour. It's like, we need you to go across the United States on this 5-week trip to promote the show Zeke and Luther. So the basic idea was to piggyback these things called the Journey's Backyard Barbecue. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So
like Journey, like the store in the mall? Okay.
Yeah, the mall store Journeys does these things like in random mall parking lots throughout the summer called the Backyard Barbecue, where they like have a vert ramp and Van sends in like, you know, fucking Hosoi and Cab and like Omar Hassan and like, you know, Neil Hendricks. They send in like the vert team to go do these like demos. Like Tony Alva was there at one of them.
Okay.
And my job was to have these ramps, like 3-foot high, like quarter pipes, flat banks, little flat bar, little ledge, a little mani pad. I was supposed to do like these little skate clinics with kids 12 and under, teach them how to skate if they didn't know how to skate, or they could skate the little street course. And I had all this Zeke and Luther like promo to like hand out and talk about the show. And so they let me bring another skater along. So I got my homie Ron Resurrection to do it. So it's me and Ron Resurrection, literally 5 weeks driving this like big ass like U-Haul type truck with ramps in the back of it. And we would set up in a fucking mall parking lot and just skate and like hand out this shit. Did it for 5 weeks, paid like $1,000 a week plus per diem. So I never spent any money more than like, you know, Subway $5 footlongs because I'm trying to pocket all the money. Because I'm like, dude, I'm broke at this time. Like, so, and then every city we stopped in, they're like, yo, if you know like a local skater, you could hire someone for the day and pay them like, you know, a day rate. I think it was like $200 to like come and do the thing. So I remember we did it like the first year. I don't think we had anybody in Vegas, but the Dallas stop, I hired my homie Jeremy Holmes, who used to skate for Listen. I was like, hey man, you want to make $200 and like skate some like little street course? He's like, yeah. And, but we were never actually in a city. We were always on the outskirts in some suburb.
Some mall, like a mall.
Yeah, a full mall. Yeah. So I remember we had to do one in Peabody, but I was calling it Peabody.
Okay.
And so I'm staying out there and I'm trying to get these dudes from Boston to come out. So like at that time, like Lee Berman and Kevin Coakley were like the younger Boston dudes. So I was like, dude, I'm going to pay you guys $200 each to come out here. And they're like, dude, no one goes to Peabody. And I was like, how does it pronounced Peabody when it looks like the word Peabody? He's like, it's Boston, man. That's how we talk up here.
Yeah. You got all kinds of weird towns up here that you couldn't pronounce. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I hired those dudes and, you know, and for that one, we were there for like a week for some reason. So I'm like, dude, I can't stay at this Holiday Inn out here in fucking the middle of nowhere. I'm like losing my shit. And they were living in some apartment in Dorchester. So I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here. I took the train. And the closest train out there was like Salem. And I was like, oh damn, God. This is the witch trials. I've never been here. So I gave myself a tour of the Salem shit. And I took the train into Boston. I was like, I'm never coming back here until like we got to like leave or some shit. Left the truck.
That's middle
left
of
the
nowhere,
ramps. Man. Yeah. It's weird because you're close enough to Boston, but it's like an eternity away if you don't have a car.
Yeah. But you could have went and visit Chris Wren and Death Wish guys over at that point. They were over in Salem, I think.
This was like 2010, I think. 2010, 2009.
I think they were still there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I did this tour for like 2 years, you know. So, but yeah, you know, we stopped outside of Philly. We did one in like Baltimore, you know, like everywhere I knew somebody. So it was like kind of cool. Like the Baltimore stop, or it was supposed to be DC, but it was like White Marsh, Bel Air. It was like always some suburban place like close to a city, but they would call it that city. But I mean, yeah, like thankfully I did that job for like, you know, 2 years, you know, like making $1,000 a week, 5 weeks, 2 years in a row. And then the show's like canceled because I guess that's how Disney does it. They run a show for like a couple years. The kids get old.
Yeah.
And it's over. But yeah, you know, like I try to watch the show. Like, it was awful unless you're like a little kid. Can't really watch it. It's Disney shit, but
Right.
you know,
Yeah, most of that stuff.
And right. So then also before I got the Bones job, I got to backtrack a little bit. I worked for Satori for like 6 months. So Satori Wheels, Creation Skateboards, it was called High Grade Distribution. And at the time they were out of SF. Like they had a little warehouse office space like in the Mission. And, you know, this dude's trying to get me to move up to SF. And I'm like, dude, I'm paying $700 for like this studio in Hollywood. Like I can't move up to SF. I'm going to pay like $1,200 for the same size studio, like in the Tenderloin where dudes are smoking crack in front of your building.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, and I got a car. Where the hell am I going to park the car? Like I got to pay for that. And like, this dude's paying me shit because he's a small company. And I've known him like forever because he used to be like a Woodward camp counselor. And he used to stay at my house in Philly when he had downtime. Okay. So I've known this dude since like the mid 90s, super good friends. And it's weird when you're like the one dude who doesn't smoke weed at a company where everyone smokes weed. And, I mean, like that's the one thing I didn't like about the brand, that it was so like weed focused. Cause it's like weird that I'm working at a weed company, but I like the fact that shit was made out of hemp because I'm like, it's a sustainable like fabric. They did a lot of hemp clothing, which I thought was cool. They were like full on this yoga pant thing before Lululemon was making yoga pants. And, they were like kind of ahead of the game on like a lot of shit. Cause they were like just this earthy hippie Rasta skateboard company.
Right.
And they made wheels out of recycled urethane, which was cool. Instead of like people just throwing their used wheels in the trash, they're like, no, we're going to use everyone's used wheels and make a new wheel out of it. So like we're not wasting shit. So it's like I liked all the environmental aspects of the company. Plus they were like all like vegan dudes, you know, so that shit was cool. But when you're like sober and your mind is like clear and you're focused, you come in there to work with like a sense of urgency to get shit done, especially with like the background I had from like the smaller brand, you know, it's like, oh, we got to do this, this, and this. And then these dudes are like in slow motion, like, yo, man, like you got to relax a little bit. And like, what's the hurry? And I'm like, my mind was so business where their mind was like, we'll get it done eventually.
Right.
And like, I don't know, man, I'm not trying to throw all these stoners under the bus, but it almost seems like that's like a stoner mentality.
I feel like that was a lot of the California mentality in general. I feel like people were just kind of slowed down. A lot of the people that I saw out there that were making things happen were actually from the East Coast. Yeah.
So I don't know. It was cool. And I was really trying hard to move up to SF because it was always my dream to move to SF. I just didn't realize like how expensive it was until I started looking at apartments. I was like, fuck, man, you got to pay me more money if I'm moving up there. And so he ended up moving up to Humboldt. Big fucking surprise. So he could be more in weed world. But he was trying to get me to move up to Humboldt. I was like, fucking ain't moving up to Humboldt. There ain't shit to do up there. There's one skate park. And like, so I never moved up there. So, and at that time, this whole Vans thing was happening. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go work for Vans anyway. You're moving to Humboldt. He was actually paying me under the table because he was paying me so little. That way I could still collect unemployment and still like survive.
Right.
But he wanted me to move to Humboldt, and I was like, that's not going to happen. I'm going to take this Vans job. Then I didn't take the Vans job. Then I got the Bones job.
And then the whole contest announcing thing, you're still doing that, right?
Well, I was.
Or you were until this year, I mean.
Well, I got demoted sometime a couple years ago. Like, I will still announce contests, like, in other countries. Like, they'll throw me on in, like, Singapore, Japan, shit like that. But like for the most part in the States, they demoted me because I came from the harsh school of contest announcing. Like when I skated Tampa Am, Clyde Singleton's on the mic and he's like clowning you the whole time and like making fun of everybody. And like, you know, Greg Carroll used to do the same thing, and Sal Barbier. So like, that's how I knew how to announce contests, was like to talk shit while someone's skating.
Right.
And it made the crowd laugh. It definitely didn't necessarily make the skater laugh.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't know how many people I hurt and offended until like years later, when like I've seen interviews come out where people were mad that I was talking shit, or when, you know, like, when we would do like the live webcast, and, you know, there would be comments coming in on the screen that I could read, and people were like going in on me, like talking shit about me. And yeah, it got kind of harsh. I guess like I offended like companies, team riders, and I remember I offended the shit out of that dude Milton Martinez, who's probably going to win like SOTY this year. But like his mom sent like some like crazy email into Skate Park of Tampa about how it was like super mean to her son on the mic. And I mean, I can remember all the instances like that. Like, I mean, like Justin Figueroa like was crying in some interview how I made fun of the song that he skated to, because I made fun of it the whole time while he's skating. I didn't talk about any of the tricks he did, because he came up to the DJ to request a song. And I was like, damn, man, this is a song you requested. Is the worst song I ever heard. It was like some classic rock song.
Yeah.
And literally for 1 minute, I just talked about how awful the song was during his run.
That's awesome.
And, you know, the Milton Martinez did like some blunt grab where he did like a blunt on a quarter pipe, but he grabbed the nose out to fakie. I was like, man, you can't grab out, and like, unless you're under like double digits in age. Like, you're too old to be grabbing out. You're supposed to ollie out of your blunts. Like, and I just talked shit about the blunt grab, which I have on film on my phone to this day. Because it'll be a reminder for whenever he wins SOTY, be like, I made fun of this kid once.
Oh, man.
And now he's SOTY.
Yeah.
He might win Skater of the Year.
That's funny.
So, but I'd like to think a lot of this tough love helped these dudes become better skateboarders. They cut a lot of the whack shit out. Like, I would call out so many whack tricks during runs. Like, the one kid, Tyson Bowerbank, who I sponsor now, he's like, man, you used to like make fun of me because I couldn't clear the pyramid on all my tricks. You would just call me deck check. And I'm just like, well, that's what you did. I'm like, do you deck check now? He's like, no, man, because the next year I made sure I came back to Tampa not deck checking, because you kept calling me out. And so it just depends on how you take the criticism. Like, a lot of people will like be like, okay, I shouldn't do that because he called it out. Like, he said it's whack. Like, I should do something else. Like, don't do the am shuffle, you know, don't crook back lip this rail. Like, don't body varial board slide the rail. Like, just cut some of the whack shit out, and it will progress your skating. Like, if you're trying to make it to be sponsored or pro, like, you're in an am contest, you're trying to make it to the next level. Like that's the world's biggest am contest. People from all over the world go there. Don't do whack shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so this whole new generation's soft. So if you say anything like that, you're a bully, you're bullying. They didn't grow up in our era where, you know.
Yeah. And you got the parents on the sidelines too.
Yeah. So, oh, you're making fun of my kid. Oh, why is this guy on the microphone? This guy's so mean. And so I didn't realize after every contest, there was damage control for me. Like, Clemens would tell me, he's like, dude, I got to answer so many emails and phone calls after every contest you work. So, you know, then I started judging and stuff like that. But so how the judging works is there's 5 judges. They drop the high score, they drop the low score, and they average the 3 other scores. Because, like, you know, what if, you know, somebody, it's like, this is my favorite skater, I'm going to give him like a 95, but he probably sucked. Or it's like, I hate this guy, I'm going to give him like a 20, but he probably ripped. So that's why they do that.
Right.
But they said I was so critical that like my scores were always getting thrown out because I was always scoring people super low. I'm like, well, all these dudes suck. They're not impressing me.
Right.
So then that's when they put me on for DJ. They're like, nah, you're good at DJ. So I've been DJing contests mostly the past couple years.
Well, that's cool. So is it just, who do you do the contest for? Are you ever doing
So now I work with the Border. So Skate Park of Tampa guys had a split. Brian Schaefer, Ryan Clemens. They used to be Skate Park of Tampa. Now it's just Brian Schaefer. They had a divorce a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I want to say, damn, man, it's probably been like, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I can't remember when the divorce happened, but Ryan started his company called The Border. That first year it started, he didn't really hire me for anything. He's like, I don't really have the budget yet, but as soon as we get going, I'm going to bring you in. Then the following year, I want to say it was about 2014. He probably brought me in like full on announcing some, but DJing most. Because he was like, yeah, I'm just going to use you in the role of DJ, but announcing when I need or judge if I need, because you can do it all. Cool. But so, and then the Border gets hired out. Like, they were doing Adidas Skate Copa, Vans Park Series. So I would just get hired, to do that stuff. But then we do like these smaller ones called like Grind for Life. It's similar to like the Damn Am. And it's crazy because like, now that I'm older and I get all spoiled, when you work like a bigger corporate thing like Vans Park Series, they have a whole sound team. I usually just got to bring my computer, plug in, ready to go. Right. Like, but when we work these smaller Grind for Life, it's like, I got to set up the sound. I'm the sound guy. And I'm getting paid the same as if I'm working Vans Park Series where I'm just plugging in my computer. Right. And it's like, fuck, this sucks. I got to run all these like cables. I got to set up speakers. I got to set up the mixer. But it's like, it's something new that I learned. So now if I have to do sound somewhere, it's like, now I have a new skill set.
You do it.
So
do a pop-up, do a show somewhere.
It's like when you came for the Hot Wheels thing. That's like a smaller event. I had to set up the sound for that whole fucking thing.
Oh man, I'm surprised they didn't have something rigged up there, because they do stuff there all the time. So you would think they would have.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so we were doing those events until COVID happened. So hopefully I come back in, and then like I would do tour also. I would get hired separately by this company called Transitions. And then they do like one-off events. Like they hired me for Air and Style, which was like some Shaun White event. It was like skateboarding, snowboarding in LA. Like they made fake snow, like a fake mountain, and did a snowboard event. And like right near like USC, like the Coliseum, like where the Rams play football. It's fucking weird. But there was like a whole street course too for skateboarding. So, and that shit's like weird because it's like, dude, this one's like on TV. Like, so that stuff's a little bit more intimidating. Do tour now, like they don't really use me for the TV side of things. They just use me for like the web stuff or like the on-site stuff.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And I still get to announce for those events, but like I know those are bigger corporate, like televised or whatever live webcast things, so that I'm a little bit more tame. Plus I'm just strictly like color commentary. Like they got this other dude, Jimmy. You probably know Jimmy because he's like a BMX guy.
Okay.
He's got a voice like a stripper, like a strip club announcer. And what the hell's his name? He's from Texas, maybe.
Jimmy Levine?
I can't remember his last name, man. I'm blowing it right now.
Jimmy, I don't know.
But he's kind of like an older dude, kind of beard, really deep voice.
I don't know.
I can't remember, but he does tour with me, does Air and Style. We did Nitro Circus, which was in like fucking Utah's like football stadium, like the college team, the Utes. And here I am doing Travis Pastrana's like Nitro Circus, like announcing to like the largest crowd ever, like full football stadium, for that. But it's like a mega. So that was the easiest one because it's like 30 minutes of work. It's a mega contest. All I got to do is count how many times they're spinning in the air over the mega gap. 720 indie grab, which way are they grabbing and how many rotations? Like it was, but they wanted me to break it down, like dumb it down for like, the average layman that doesn't understand, like, all the different grabs and, if some dude's going switch, shit like that. But it was cool. Like it was weird because like, that Nitro Circus, I never watched it. I didn't know there was like scooter dudes like going over like 40-foot gaps on their scooters. Like that shit was kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really even know what happens there.
But the funny thing about the scooter world is the best scooter dude is a pro BMXer.
Oh, really?
So it made me like just realize I'm like, oh, scooting must be super easy then. Like I've never really tried it, but for a BMX guy, it must be super easy.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, because I've seen guys like BMX guys get on scooters and just, I mean, like a tail whip on a scooter. I mean, if you can do it on a BMX bike, it's like a joke on a scooter, you know?
Yeah.
But well,
yeah. So yeah, that's it. So I don't know. That's my life, I guess. I'm still working at Bones. Been there for 10 years.
What's a good place for people to check you out and follow you, what you're up to?
I mean, all my social media handles are the same. It's at Vern Laird for Instagram, Twitter, which I barely use, TikTok. I don't know. I think I got a YouTube page, Vern Laird. If it's not Vern Laird, it's Vernon Laird, full name. But Facebook, Vernon Laird, Vern Laird. Instagram's probably what I use the most, though.
Okay, cool. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Vern Laird. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, please make sure to go over to codecprojects.com, codecprojects.com, and check out everything we have going on over there. The Don't Stand in Line docuseries is still up for sale. It's also available for rent for a 72-hour rental period. So if that's a little bit more up your alley, definitely go check that out. If you get a chance, please leave us a rating and review in iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. It really helps build awareness and would mean a lot to me. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube at codecprojects.com. We're actually over at Facebook. We have a Facebook group going now for anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship or just kind of doing their own thing. You might want to go check that out. It's a pretty cool resource. And thanks again. See you next week.